Hello and welcome back to the Facts of Facts, the only Facts of Life podcast that's truly terrified right now. Whatever I was going to say is out of my head because my podcast co-host is an adorable cat. Say hello, adorable cat.
I am not a cat. I'm the lawyer, the cat lawyer meme.
Perfect. How are you doing today, cat lawyer meme?
Pretty good, actually. Alarmingly good, even though it is quite early on a Sunday morning.
It is very early on a Sunday morning, but we do our best to deliver the content to you guys so you can see us for Halloween dressed as a giant chicken taco and an adorable lawyer cat.
I'm going to take my lawyer cat head off right now, which is also kind of alarming to take one's head off.
Yeah, go for it. De-head yourself.
I feel like that's kind of, because we're covering a Halloween episode.
We are.
That's all about, I was going to say headless horseman, but that's not true.
It's not. In fact, I wanted to, when I went to go get my costume, I was planning on getting a hot dog because of the theme of the episode, but they only had hot dogs in child size and they only had one taco. And I was just like, I gotta be a taco, I guess.
Well, being a taco is your fate.
It is my fate. It is my fate. All right. So we've got a good one today, I think. Britt shakes her head no. So maybe not for Britt, but for me, a good one. It's the Halloween show, one of two Halloween episodes the show will do. I don't think it's my favorite of the two because the other one is really hard to beat, but this is a wonderful Halloween episode.
Yeah. My understanding in the other one is that it has some sort of, it's like in a parallel universe or something, and Blair dies or someone murders Blair. I don't know. But
they all die.
Okay. But this one, this was barely a Halloween episode.
I don't know. I always thought of it as the ultimate Halloween episode.
Which is crazy because I love a Halloween episode of television. They're like a hallmark of a great episode because usually, what usually happens in a Halloween episode is the entire cast has an excuse to dress up and weird shit usually happens. And
they don't dress up in the other one either.
And no, they broke the cardinal rule, which is the cast doesn't get to dress up into costumes. They just have to act like, oh, it's Halloween. This sucks. Here's some candy for these children. None of the fun stuff happens.
I mean, I think that's subjective. I thought it was a very fun episode.
But they don't get to participate.
What? They're handing out candy to trick-or-treaters. That's something.
That's barely anything.
They're participating in a real-life exercise where they believe that their beloved Mrs. Garrett is a murderer and that their beloved Joe is a cannibal.
Well, I did enjoy the cannibal plot line. I thought that was pretty unique.
Yeah.
I've never seen that before on a show.
Well, that's the point. I think they did a good job. I think that this is not a cliched Halloween episode at all.
It's not a Halloween episode.
It's called the Halloween show. We got trick-or-treaters. You saw Kelly Affinado. She was wearing a costume.
Yeah, she's a giant Annie.
Mm-hmm. She's a giant asshole. Anyway, let us get into it. So it was written by Jerry Mayer, so you know it's good. He wrote our Paris movie.
Yes.
And he wrote several episodes. He's one of our creators, and I think he's got 6 more episodes left throughout the series.
To be perfectly frank, the Paris movie was way more scary and Halloween-like than this episode.
Well, that was just scary and Halloween-like for your life. Also, we were covering it during the pandemic, or at the beginning of the pandemic, I should say. We're still in the pandemic. And life was very scary at that time.
That's true.
So maybe that contributed to it, but I don't know. I would say that's more sucky.
Although the thing about the Paris movie is that, speaking of cannibals, I did compare it to the world's worst movie, which is Cannibal Holocaust.
That is true. That is true. So there's a theme going.
Yeah.
So we open
Where?
in Edna's Edibles.
We sure do.
And you know it's spoopy season because there's a ghost on the wall. And it's got like a lion's mane or something.
Again, unless you had put up like, if there was like, the other thing is that they broke the cardinal rule is that there's like one skeleton up and like one ghost.
There were 3.
And one small pumpkin. Like, they don't even set decorate it well enough for you to actually, for the audience to really go, oh, sweet. Yeah, it's really spoopy season in here.
I mean, the pumpkin was medium-sized. Mrs. Garrett enters with a tray of bratwurst.
She does.
Get used to that this episode, because it is bratwurst season.
It sure is. And, you know, as we go on and on, like, the running gag is that it's just a lot of dick jokes.
I mean, there's one dick joke, and I have to say I was really wowed by it. But your face tells me that there might be more dick jokes that I missed, which is exciting because if you know me, you know I love dick jokes.
Yeah. Well, here we go.
Yeah. So Natalie.
Strap in.
Sorry?
Strap in.
Natalie is filming with her video camera.
She is.
Yes. She asks Mrs. Garrett to relate to the bratwurst.
And?
Have you ever related to a sausage?
I'm married to a man who is half German, so partly yes.
How's the kielbasa?
It's kielbasa-ish. I don't know. I mean, it's spicy, you know.
Oh, nice, good to know. I feel like somebody tricked Natalie into shooting sausage porn this week, like somebody from Bates. She just doesn't know.
Yeah.
Like, I have to get all the sausage footage. I need girls holding sausages. I'm not sure why. That's my assignment.
No, Jerry Mayer was like, I just want to get a lot of B-roll so that I can go home and, you know, beat off my kielbasa at home. It was so much.
It was a lot of sausage.
It's like,
they must have reused that sausage like 17 times. They just kept bringing it back out.
But it was also like really gross sausage.
Was it?
Well, I'm a vegetarian, so like almost any sausage is kind of gross to looking at.
Well, I think that bratwurst is super weird looking because of its like white grayness.
Yes.
But it looked like bratwurst at the same time. Like, it didn't not look like bratwurst.
So, but, you know, so if you're going to use like, you know, if you're going to have a visual gag of like sausage links that are kind of constantly, they're like basically the fifth roommate at this point. They're constantly coming in and going out off stage.
They're a prop, they're a shawl, they're everything.
Maybe we don't go with the most accurate one. We don't go with the one that's that weird gray white color. We go for one that's pink and more palatable looking.
I do agree with you. And in fact, I've never had a bratwurst in my life because of the color.
Okay.
So I don't know if they're great or not. I've seen them, but I've never had one. Mrs. Garrett is stressed out because all the butchers have gone on strike right in the middle of bratwurst season.
Yeah. Which again, the thing is that that's such a strange, like, hook for the episode.
Yes, it is so bizarre that we're worried. Like, does Peekskill do like an awesome Oktoberfest that we just are unaware of? Because, I mean, everybody wants these bratwursts.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, but also the funny thing is that it's like, I mean, one would think that there would be more of like an Oktoberfest type vibe, that they were making that joke, right? That there were going to be like beer steins and stuff like that. But it's mostly just, they constantly keep saying bratwurst. But then Mrs. Garrett also gets a panic attack later on in the episode over all the salads that they need to make.
They do need to make a lot of salads at very early in the morning.
Yeah, at 6:30 in the morning.
So we learned that Natalie is chosen.
Yes.
Mrs. Garrett's bratwurst for her student film. So it sounds like you can do any damn thing you want. Everything's on the table because that's what she went with.
But also the other crazy thing is that I've never, I mean, have we ever seen Natalie evince any interest in being a filmmaker?
No, but I can completely, that one I buy because when I was in school, I had no interest in making movies, but I had to take a film editing class at one point. We had to do exactly the same thing where we had to go and make a short film. It's be like 5 minutes long. We had to edit it and present it. And I do not retain those skills. I barely paid attention in that class, but it was a fun elective.
I see. Okay. Well, but again, it's sort of weird also that Natalie is the one that they gave this task to. Because the subterfuge of this episode is up to Natalie, obviously.
Yes.
But this feels more like a Tootie thing to me.
I could see either one of them doing this, honestly, but maybe maybe they were like, well, we just had Tootie's boyfriend not know how to read, so give this one to Natalie.
Okay, fair enough.
It's just a guess. I'm not entirely sure. But Natalie wraps Mrs. Garrett for the day. She's up to her esophagus in work. Trying to understand that word choice here, and I can't make sense of it.
Me neither. Again, it's just sort of gross. Like there's a lot of, I guess, like almost like Cronenberg-esque body horror. It's like I'm up to my esophagus with work. It's like, ooh, like
I know. I just imagined her choking on a bratwurst, and I didn't like it.
No.
Is that sorry?
Is that a dick joke?
I don't think so. Guess it could be. Anyway, depends on the work. So Mrs. Garrett is wrapped for the day. She's done shooting, ready for her nervous breakdown. Mm-hmm. Which would make a decent film, I think.
Yeah.
If she's about to have a nervous breakdown, start filming then.
Yeah. Not this other bullshit where Natalie is paid off the cemetery keeper, who, again, we could have had a way better, horror movie had we just gone with basically doing a documentary about that man's life.
Spoiler alert. Did you like Mr. Bigley, aka Mr. Lazaroni?
I loved him. He was
good, he's coming back.
Oh, great.
Anyway, so Nat complains about actresses. Read Mrs. Garrett, which is not how one refers to a documentary subject, but whatever. We got bigger fish to fry or bigger buns to dump.
Yep.
Because Roy is back. Oh boy.
Oh God. As soon as I saw him, my heart sank.
Did it?
Yes. I
love Roy.
I find him so noxious and like a malevolent presence.
I am worried that he now has the tools to start filming these girls without them being aware.
He does. He's been hiding in that barrel the whole time.
Probably since they opened.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that. Roy is not in the barrel right now. This is Roy. You will take heart to know. This is Roy's penultimate appearance.
Thank God.
And the next one doesn't come for another 3 years.
Wow. Why? Oh yeah. I was going to say, why bring him back? Don't they bring him back for like a graduation or something?
Not a graduation. They don't usually invite their bread delivery guys to their graduations, but he will be back. And if I tell you which kind of episode it is, I feel like it might be a little spoilery, so we'll just leave it there.
Is it a Halloween episode?
What was that?
Is it a Halloween episode?
No, it's not. But yes, let's see. So soak in your last few moments of Lauren Lester while you can.
Yeah.
He dumped Mrs. G's buns in the back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a lot of buns, there's a lot of brats, there's a lot of dick and ass jokes in this.
I still don't think there's a lot. I think that you see them when there's not. There's definitely one major one that I cannot believe cut the mustard. You like what I did there?
There you go.
But it is there. In fact, it's right now. Roy sees Joe fiddling with some bratwurst and announces that seeing them together, Joe and the bratwurst, gives him so many ideas.
Yeah. And then, like, let's link up later.
Yes, I think he says the link joke just to pass the soupy sales test, my guess.
So, and then, you know, she's sort of like trying to fight him off, basically.
Well, he calls her his little sausage, and she calls him a weenie. I miss their subtle banter.
No, and again, this is why I fucking hate Roy, and I hate the character, which is because this normalizes sexual harassment.
Yes, that is true.
And it's played as a joke. It's constant. It's like, and everyone's like, oh, it's like, Joe, don't make such a big deal about this. And he's just constantly being like, I want to put my dick inside you.
Put his bratwurst in her bun.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't. I don't disagree. I will say that I kind of appreciate Roy in that he is from another time, and it is funny to see how far we've come and how inappropriate our children's television once was. So in that regard, he is like a novelty that I do kind of enjoy. Also, he's basically gone now, so you don't have to worry about him. He's got one more shot.
Yeah, but yeah, I know I understand that he's a novelty. So, you know, almost 40 years hence, we can regard this bad character as such. But we have to remember that this was a show made for little girls, and it was for little girls with formative minds. So this was shaping their understanding of what people are like. And so,
but people are like Roy, and they're, if anything, they're helping understand or helping shape that girls get the tools to then swat off a Roy by saying, fuck off, you weenie.
No, because she just calls him a weenie. She doesn't threaten him with the butcher knife. You know, she's not like, back off.
I feel like she has at times, though. She tells everybody to go kill themselves. Has she not made any death threats on Roy? I feel like Roy would get them first.
She certainly has not told Roy to kill himself. Everyone else, yes. This guy, she's like, no, I don't want to, no.
I'll have to go back and research that because I feel like she said some mean stuff to him. But regardless, he's got to head back to Forest Bakery to recharge his pervert power. But before he goes, an old man walks in, and Roy compliments the pattern of his jacket, saying that he's got the same thing in a couch.
Oh, you mean like this jacket?
I was hoping you'd have it.
That my husband owns?
Yes, swap out the red for the yellow, and you have the same exact jacket that Mr. Bigley, a.k.a. Mr. Lazzaroni, owns.
We're close. I mean, this is Madras, and it is red. But and I guess Mr. Bigley has a yellow hued one. But anyway, yeah, so Roy says, you know, on his way out, says something completely obnoxious to a stranger.
It says, great pattern. I've got the same thing in a couch.
Yep.
It is a great pattern.
It is a great pattern.
He may have it as a couch. That's fine.
But why does Roy have this incessant need to, A, speak to everyone, and B, be a dick to everyone?
I don't know what these are.
Thumb holders.
I've got them all over my belly. I think they're like little mini, like,
is it cheap
pieces? I don't know. Yeah, Roy's a lot. I'm not going to deny that Roy is a terrible person. I just find him to be this hilarious archive from the past.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
But speaking of archives from the past, the world's oldest man enters the store.
Yes.
And he's played by Ian Wolfe. Now, I'm going to go through him real quickly.
I enjoyed him.
Oh, he's great. There's a reason he comes back. He's awesome on the next episode too.
This spooky, weird man.
Yes. Dude's got more than 300 IMDb credits. So that guy from a couple of episodes ago that was like been in virtually every single thing that's ever happened. No, this guy's been in 3 times what you've been in. And here's something interesting. He's been in 14 films that were nominated for Best Picture of the Year by the Oscars.
What?
Mm-hmm. 3 of them won.
What?
Yeah, this guy's been working for a while. So the 3 that won were Mutiny on the Bounty, You Can't Take It With You, and Miss Miniver.
My God, he must have been 1,000 years old when he shot this episode of The Facts of Life.
Yes, he was. He was also in Romeo and Juliet, Foreign Correspondent, Random Harvest, Song of Bernadette, Wilson, Johnny Belinda, A Place in the Sun, Julius Caesar, 7 Brides for 7 Brothers, Witness for the Prosecution, and Reds, all nominated for Oscars. Best Picture Oscars.
I'm so impressed by Mr. Bigley.
He is one of only 11 Star Trek actors to have been born in the 19th century, and he is the one that survived the longest.
Wow.
He played Septimus.
I want what he's eating.
He was a volunteer medical specialist during World War I.
During World War I?
One.
Oh my God.
He wrote and published 2 books of poetry.
Why didn't they make an Oscar-winning film about this man?
He lived to be 95. He died in 1992, and he worked until 1990. His last role was working with Madonna and Warren Beatty and Dick Tracy.
Who was he in Dick Tracy?
Oh, it said, but I didn't write it down in my notes, but it was like Clorp or something.
Clorp?
I know it wasn't Clorp. It was like a 1-syllable name.
Clorp. That's what you went with. Clorp.
Clorp. He was also the Monsignor in Soap, which is a great role on a great show. But he'd been playing roles like old man and grandfather since the 60s, the early 60s.
So he started in the 60s as Clorp and ended up finishing his career as Clorp in 1990.
Well, he started before there was television. He was like a famous theater actor who was like, I guess I'll try movies and TV, but that seems weird. But he did it. He was the grandfather on The Partridge Family, and his most well-known role appears to be as the doddering yet feisty butler Hirsch in WKRP in Cincinnati. At least that was his breakout. When they put him on as Hirsch, the world went crazy for Hirsch, and they just kept bringing him back.
Mm.
Anyway, he mutters amazing in the middle of the store.
Yeah.
As Tootie tries to help him. He's just like, simply amazing.
Yes.
Apparently, this used to be the Gruber house.
Yes.
Historical landmark.
Yeah.
Tootie asks if George Washington slept there, as though it was some kind of joke. And then Blair's like, not if he had my mattress. So we're supposed to believe that Blair, probably the richest girl in Peekskill, who was chosen to sleep in a room with 3 other girls above a kitchen, and I'm buying that. She couldn't even get herself a decent mattress. She's like, she took the mattress that came with the place.
Apparently so. But I will say this. You know what, Tootie? Yeah, George Washington did sleep in Peekskill in 1781.
There you go. Nice research. That was before the Gruber sisters, because the Gruber sisters were in '05.
Yeah, this I had to run back a few times because I was like, I don't understand what this man is saying.
So in 1905, 4 old maid Gruber sisters lived there.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he was saying. And you're like 4 old maids.
'05. Yeah.
That's 1905, right? I googled it to make sure that's what '05 meant.
Yeah. Anyway, so the Gruber sisters, is that right?
Yes, Natalie takes umbrage with the phrase "old maid."
Yeah, she comes up,
why.
yells at him, Anyway, so the 4 old maid Gruber sisters, Gertrude, Heidi, Helga, and Fritzy, got into a fight.
Yes, Gertrude's the mean one, so I assigned her to Joe. I gave Heidi to Blair because Blair is like, Heidi is adorable and runs across the field. Helga is Natalie, obviously. And that leaves Fritzy and Tootie.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So too.
Yeah. Anyway, they get into a huge fight.
You could hear the Doomkopfs and Schmeinhunds for blocks.
So what was the second word? Because I couldn't understand that one.
Schmeinhunds.
What does that mean? Something
I don't know. What does Doomkopf mean?
Dummy. Doomkopf means stupid person.
I didn't Google Schmeinhunds. I should have, but I was like, that's a made-up word.
No, that man worked very hard on his German pronunciation. Although
he's Oscar nominated.
He's not Oscar nominated. The films that he's been in have been.
Maybe he's Oscar nominated. I haven't Googled that. I think they would have told me. The Google. Anyway, the Schmeinhunds stopped because the massacre part started happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I appreciated Joe calling Blair a Doomkopf.
Yeah, well, anyway, so Gertrude murdered her.
Better than go kill yourself.
I agree. Doomkopf is good. It's a good word. I actually thought that he said Doomkopf and then Schwanz, which means dick.
Yes, I do know that's what it means.
Wow, Jerry Mayer sneaking that one in. Another dick joke.
That's true. If that's the case, then yes, there were more that I missed. People say Grizzly Gertie's still around, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Blair doesn't, but she gives a pretty solid wink admitting so. Mm-hmm. Blair winks a couple times this episode.
Yeah.
Gertie's bedroom apparently gets very cold around Halloween, and that's Mrs. Garrett's room. And she was just complaining about the cold the other day.
That's true. I mean, that automatically means as though the house is haunted.
Yes. I wonder why, since Natalie created this story, she didn't make it 5 women with like their mother, and the 4, just something to make it like, it's so close. Like, it looks like they're trying. And then like they came up with the story and they're like, fuck, we forgot Mrs. Garrett. Yeah.
Because then they have to give her the whole, Hansel and Gretel subplot.
Oh, that was great. And wait till you find out who Gretel is. Anyway, so the world's oldest man tells the girls, whoever inhabits Gertie's room will slowly go crazy, as long as they're women.
Mm-hmm.
5 women. All lost their shit. No wonder Raymond got such a good deal on this place with like, all the murders that happened there.
Right. No, and so I actually thought, if this place has been around for that long, right? There's definitely a murder has happened in that house. I feel like if a house has been around for at least a century, a murder has happened in there.
Oh, yeah. For sure. That's how it goes. As if on cue, whoever lives in Gertie's room slowly goes crazy. Mrs. Garrett walks in like a giant bobblehead with a huge plate of bratwurst. This is supposed to be a sign that she's beginning to lose it. She wobbles and she walks and she got bratwurst during bratwurst season. She must be possessed.
Yeah. Yeah. And she screams, "What's everyone standing around for?" She's she's so weird and erratic. She's so extra, Mrs. Garrett, in this episode, that I mean, to be perfectly frank, if I were Blair, Joe, and Tootie, I would think that she was possessed.
Mrs. Garrett's like, "Stop staring at me and work." And Mrs. Tootie's like, "We can't work. We just found out this place is the site of a massacre." And then Mr. Bigley cheerfully goes, "Yup, blood all over the house."
I know. But so pause for a second. So this is Mr. Bigley, right? Do you think that his name is actually Big Lie?
Ooh, there's literally no reason for him to have changed his name.
No, he could have come in as, what is it, Lazaroni.
Yeah, Mr. Lazaroni. That's what he is in the next episode. I do not know why they had to call him Mr. Bigley, but I guess maybe you're right. Maybe it is Big Lie. Maybe that's Jerry Mayer trying to be too clever by half.
Yes.
Anyway, he rudely orders 5 pounds of bratwurst because it really is bratwurst season.
I know. So but 5 pounds And he says, you know, basically like it's the only place in town to get this bratwurst, which again, you know, I thought Mrs. Garrett was famous for her strudel, not for her.
She didn't open a strudel restaurant.
Not
she sells quiche. She sells escargot in tubes. She's
not
got all kinds of stuff.
Not her sausage making. Also, the fact that Mrs. Garrett is making sausage at Edna's Edibles is alarming enough, because that means that she has, you know, a meat grinder, and that she's buying, you know, sausage casing, which is absolutely completely disgusting. So to imagine Mrs. Garrett, you know, cranking out these sausages is pretty gross.
I like imagining it.
Anyway, so he says, I want 5 pounds of sausage. I'm leaving tomorrow morning. I'm going to come pick it up before my flight, before I go to the airport. So presumably then he is going to board an airplane with 5 pounds of raw meat.
That's about 20 bratwurst, yes.
He's the worst airline passenger ever. That's a crazy thing to do.
Okay. You've got to understand that when I come home from Christmas, my mom gives me a backpack filled with sausage and peppers that are cooked and much more fragrant. I get brujol, which is beef cooked in tomato sauce, rolled with Parmesan cheese and breadcrumbs. I get everything. I get meatballs. I get cheesecake. And yeah, my backpack smells like what I assume Edna's Edibles smells like.
But they've been cooked.
That's worse.
No, raw meat? What's he planning on doing with it at the other end? It's not as though it's going to be refrigerated.
Oh. I would definitely keep raw sausage in an airplane for, well, first of all, he could be going to Vegas. No, we're close to Vegas. He could be going to Maryland, someplace close. It's like 10 minutes on the plane, and he just needs to bring his girlfriend some sausage. I don't know. They're celebrating Oktoberfest right wherever he's going.
Okay.
But yeah, he wants to be there at 11 a.m. sharp, and she'll be waiting for him, and he's like, we'll see, which I thought was curious. Yeah. And then he complains about how cold it is in the house and leave.
Yeah.
And what happens next?
Bedroom.
We see the girl's fucking bedroom. First time.
I was shocked. The other crazy thing is about this is that, so we've discussed the fact that this house seems oddly constructed.
Yes.
Because Edna's Edibles is like, you know, the main bit, but it's also attached to a whole giant living room that also has stairs upstairs to the girl's bedroom and presumably Mrs. Garrett's bedroom, the cold one. I assume a bathroom of some sort. This room also has stairs. So Natoots are sleeping on a separate level than Joe and Blair. So this house is just a house of staircases.
Yeah, the room is crazy. I love it.
Yeah.
And what's great is they're going to bust through a wall one day and find a secret room. It's like an attic, but it's like level with them. It makes very little sense.
Is Mr. Bigley living in there now?
Yeah, a man lives in there, yeah. It's not Mr. Bigley.
A man lives behind a wall in a little girl's house?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Is a man they really tried to make happen, and then like immediately we're like, what were we thinking? And they just like write him out without even talking about it. But there will be like 2 episodes that a man lives in that hole. Anyway. We finally see the bedroom. It's dark, but we wait for the big reveal, and I'm happy to see it. Yeah. Mrs. Garrett enters with a knife, holds it up menacingly while Tootie sleeps in a chair by the door, and then there's a lot of screaming.
Yes. So this is the only moment where you actually can conceive of this episode appearing as though it's a Halloween episode. Because it does what it's supposed to, which is it gives you a little bit of a jump scare. Totally black, it's the lights are out. Mrs. Garrett creaks open the door. And then it's, a Mrs. Garrett silhouette.
I didn't know you were a Foley artist.
Holding a giant butcher's knife. And you get the outline. And so it's like, oh shit, Mrs. Garrett's here to kill the girls.
Yes.
But no, then the lights turn on after all the screaming because Mrs. Garrett tumbles over Tootie and
No,
is
I
like,
don't think there's any tumbling with the knife. I think Tootie just wakes up.
Tootie, why are you sleeping in a chair by the door? And Tootie's like, why are you coming in here with that giant sharp knife in the middle of the night?
It's a good point, Tootie.
Yeah.
Natalie explains that Mrs. Garrett did this joke last night too, standing over her bed, saying something about Helga paying for what she's done.
Yeah.
Which was funny because then it means, yes, I nailed Helga. Natalie is the Helga.
You're right. Absolutely.
But Mrs. Garrett says she wasn't in the room last night. She didn't even get done. I guess the room probably didn't even get done being built until like 5 minutes ago because they didn't have it for the first 5 episodes. She doesn't have an answer as to why she's holding the butcher knife. It was in the bathroom next to her toothpaste. And now she needs the girls to get up at 6:30 a.m. to make salads so she can go creatively scrounge up some meat.
No. And so, okay. So the fact we know, but that spoiler alert, that Natalie has set all of this up, right? To make, to basically gaslight Mrs. Garrett and all of her roommates and friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that she puts this knife in the bathroom and then Mrs. Garrett just picks it up as though it just mysteriously appears, right?
Well, if you're Mrs. Garrett, you see a knife in your bathroom, you're probably going to remove it.
Right, and then come in and menacingly wake up all of the girls that are under your care. That
was very fortunate for Natalie's plan.
Yeah, because it makes her look insane. And at that point, I would have, if I were Blair, Joe, or Tootie, I would have been like, Mrs. Garrett, I think you might have had a stroke. We need to take you to the emergency room.
Yep, but Mrs. Garrett goes on her meat hunt, and Blair hopes that Natalie was kidding or maybe dreaming about Mrs. Garrett's homicidal behavior the night before. Mm-hmm. But Natalie only dreams of Rick Springfield stabbing her.
Mm-hmm. That's another dick joke.
Well, I made it, though. It wasn't made by the show. She just dreams of Rick Springfield, period.
Mm-hmm. Stabbing her with his...
Right. Are you saying that Rick Springfield is a dick because he's trying to steal Jesse's girl?
He is actually. Did you know that Rick Springfield's actual name is Stan Hope? What is it? Springthorpe.
Stan Springthorpe?
Rick Springthorpe.
Oh, Rick Springthorpe. It's like he changed Stan too.
Yeah, his actual name is Stan Springthorpe.
That was pretty awesome. Tootie is on edge.
Yeah.
Because Mrs. Garrett's slipper is in the room, and that can only mean one thing. She's been possessed by Grizzly Gertie.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So now we're downstairs at Edna's Edibles.
Yeah.
Blair's carving a pumpkin at 6:30 a.m.
Again, why does it need to be so early?
I don't know. But Tootie and Joe are making salads, I guess, while listening to Mrs. Garrett relentlessly sharpen knives, which is unnerving Tootie.
I mean, it was unnerving to me.
Tootie's holding a book and points out that Mrs. Garrett's got all the symptoms of being possessed.
Yeah, so because apparently, Tootie is like, an expert now on seances and exorcisms.
Because I wrote in my notes, when the fuck did Tootie get an occult library?
Yeah, exactly.
Mrs. Garrett's forgetful. She's lying. She's sleeping in a cold room next to an evil spirit. These are all of the symptoms. She's even got a glint in her eye. Someone should just put her down. Maybe there's something in one of the books to help her out, because she has several books on exorcisms.
Which I wouldn't trust Tootie to do.
No, I feel like you'd get an extra ghost in you.
Yeah, you'd get more ghosts.
Yes. In comes Kelly Affonato, dressed as a giant Annie with two young tykes.
Yeah.
I actually feel like that might be the regular sized Annie. I don't know how big Annie was, but I feel like a 12-year-old girl seems about right.
Yeah, and also I feel like Pamela Adlon is a very small person, and I feel like she's always been that height.
That is probably true as well. Anyway.
Grown. That's full grown.
So she's taking these two tykes trick-or-treating and also stealing all their candy, because there cannot be anything that Kelly Affonato does nice.
No, that doesn't. And she's always stealing food.
Yes, she's very hungry.
Mm-hmm.
Joe immediately Scooby-Doos the situation by peeling off the red wig and revealing Kelly Affonato to be the criminal mastermind that she is. Check those sacks for escargot, Joe.
I know. So again, as we discussed the last time when Pamela Adlon showed up for the first time, I don't really understand why she qualifies to be in the opening credits yet of this show.
Big time.
What? She gets one line. 2 lines maybe. She gets vitamins.
I don't know why. I really don't know why. I mean, at least wait until she's a thing on the show to put her in the credits, but...
Exactly. Whose dick was she sucking?
My coxcomb on straight.
Yeah. No, it's not.
So, yes, she steals all these kids' candy, and then Joe has to redistribute the sugary wealth. And sends them on their way before Kelly threatens to not wassail them for Christmas.
Yeah, I know. Which, again, that's not a threat. That's a promise.
Yeah, please, we don't need your wassailing.
We don't need your wassailing.
Natalie appears with a bag of items she found behind the shop.
I know.
Mr. Bigley's jacket and a knife. Why someone would throw out a perfectly good knife is beyond me, but more curious, what is the back of the shop? Because I thought the back of the shop was the front of the house.
Me too. But
and
also,
the side of the shop is a sidewalk that we see. So where was this found? I want to know the layout of this building. I need blueprints.
I want blueprints too, because also at one point later on, Mr. Bigley comes in from the living room.
Yes, we will talk about that.
How did he access that? Did he come in through the back door?
Why couldn't we have him knock on the store door?
Does he live there? Is he the one that lives in the attic?
I wish. Blair points out that Bigley never picked up his 5 pounds of bratwurst, which is 20 sausages. Natalie called his hotel and his bags are still there, but he was supposed to check out and he left behind an airline ticket for a flight that left 5 hours ago.
To be perfectly honest, that hotel gave away too much information about a private human, about a private person.
A private human.
A private human. But a private citizen. There we go. The fact that obviously we know that this is a huge lie, but the fact that Natalie called up and they were just gave this information away. He left his bags here. He left his airline ticket. The plane left 5 hours ago. I don't know where he is. What? How gullible are the girls that they're yeah, that makes sense.
He stayed at the Worst Western where they tell you everything about you. So Tootie seems to have found the answer off screen during this scene, which was very fast. Mm-hmm. Her occult library must be very well organized. Mm-hmm. She also it must have a candles and tchotchkes section because she comes equipped with a box of special candles designed to spook a spook. This is what I wrote in my notes.
Anyway, so she starts putting candles everywhere.
Yeah, she says the corners of the room, but then she doesn't follow that. She's just like random, higgledy-piggledy.
Yeah. Anyway, and so then Natalie's like, that's not exorcism, that's Hanukkah.
No, it's not, you Jew.
Yeah. What's happening here?
All the candles are in one spot for Hanukkah. And I can say you Jew because I am a Jew. And also, it's not a slur. But it is reminding us that Natalie should know what Hanukkah is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just placing candles everywhere you can find a spot. Natalie shows the jacket to Tootie, who makes virtually the same joke Blair did about thinking it was Natalie's jacket, which I thought was like really lazy writing.
I know, but they may keep shitting on that fucking jacket.
And it's so good. He looks like Paul King, who's actually right over there on my wall. But Paul King wore a yellow check jacket on the cover of his biggest hit, Love and Pride.
He also looked like Cher Horowitz from Clueless in the iconic yellow plaid skirt dress outfit. I don't know.
That's true, but Mr. Bigley was here first.
True.
To be fair.
So Cher Horowitz basically was ripping off Mr. Bigley.
She pulled a Bigley, or I guess technically it's known now as pulling a Lazaroni.
Pulling a Lazaroni. Yep.
Yes, and I liked that Tootie was like, you can handle bold patterns, Natalie. But we've never seen Natalie handle bold patterns. She handles bold Mickey Mouse sweaters and bold overalls.
So speaking of, is she wearing those overalls that are one half like acid wash on top and then the bottom half looks as though she just pissed her pants?
Yes, thank you. It hit me like several times that's what it looked like. It looked like, technically it looked like she like waded into a pool with acid wash overalls and then stopped before it got to her belly button.
Yeah. Why would
such a bad look?
Why would they put her in those clothes?
I do not know. I don't know why they chose this. Is that a bold pattern?
No, it's not a pattern. I mean, it's pretty bold, but it's certainly not a pattern.
It is bold, yes. Tootie, spooked, wonders solemnly what happened to Mr. Bigley, just as Mrs. Garrett comes in wearing a shawl of bratwurst, screaming, I got the meat. I got the meat.
I know. And which made me think of the Arby's slogan, we've got the meats.
That's true. That's true. This show's really ahead of its time. 25 pounds of meat she got. And I don't think there was 25 pounds of excess meat on Mr. Bigley.
No, certainly not.
I don't think you could get that much bratwurst fixins. I actually credit this episode for why I've never eaten bratwurst.
Because you thought they were made out of humans?
No, just because like it's like usually when there's like sausage on TV and it's all linked up, it looks like you said pink and delicious, like Scooby-Doo's gonna eat it. But yeah. This was gray, and I was like, they screwed up in the sausage department as a kid. And then when I saw bratwurst, which I think I technically saw for the first time in So I Married an Axe Murderer, following this, I was like, whoa, that bratwurst looks just like Mrs. Garrett's. So I guess kudos to the bratwurst department. Blair asks where the meat came from. Mrs. Garrett has no idea. It was just in the icebox.
Yeah, the delivery boy but must have dropped it off.
Seems sus.
Yeah, and then they're like, wait. What about the strike? The meat strike.
Yes, that is a good question that I have in my notes later. How did Natalie get all this meat during a butcher strike?
In the middle of the fucking night.
During bratwurst season.
But yeah, where did she get it?
I don't know. That's the biggest hole of this episode, in my opinion.
It's like the longest con. Was she lying about the strike too?
Oh, I guess she could have been. Anyway, Mrs. Garrett has already made them into sausages.
Yeah.
She even turned one into a sandwich.
Because here's the thing. She's not going to look a gift meat in the mouth.
Neither will I.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I will put a gift meat in the mouth.
Exactly. There's the dick joke.
I just meant free meat is delicious. Better than when you pay for it. Anyway, So she tries to get all the girls to eat her sandwich, but none of them are sucking down old man sausage. Joe doesn't give a fuck, though.
Yeah,
She starts chowing down. Mrs. Garrett explains she fiddled with the recipe a bit. Joe's like, oh, this is better than ever.
Yeah, she's just, stuffing that bratwurst into her face. And then the girls like kind of circle her and they're like, are you okay? You hate eating man meat.
Men.
You hate man meat.
You never put a man in your mouth. Why did this happen?
It could use some mustard.
Yes, because Mr. Bigley always looked great in yellow. That was a solid joke. I actually like that joke.
And yes,
then Blair asks about Mr. Bigley, but Mrs. Garrett confirms he never showed up. They just have 5 more pounds to sell to someone else. How much bratwurst can Peekskill eat? Even in bratwurst season, this seems excessive.
It's way too excessive.
Yes, Roy comes back in.
Well, no, it's not Roy yet. It's a giant monster. It's a giant monster who comes in and, like, boo! And he's wearing this big fright mask and, Joe being like, oh, hi, Roy, with her mouth full of sausage meat.
It was more like, fuck off, Roy, but yes. And Blair asks Roy, do you remember the old man who wore this jacket? And he's like, yeah, he's got great taste, huh? Blair's like, we hope not. That was good, too. I enjoyed that. Roy happens to have a missing piece of the puzzle. He saw Bigley at the store at 11 as planned. And apparently, he and Mrs. Garrett bickered and then went into the kitchen. How mysterious. And then Roy left.
So, but again, what's the time frame here? He saw Mr. Bigley come in yesterday at 11 a.m. Or was it today at 11 a.m.?
It was today at 11 a.m. That was when he was supposed to get his sausages.
So, what time is it right now?
I'll see. Oh, wait. So we know it's 5 hours post when his flight was. So if he was supposed to be there at 11 and then get to his flight, we'll say that his flight took off at 1 and then there's 5 hours. So 6, it's like 6.
6 p.m.
Yes. Just about to be trick-or-treating time.
How quickly for the girls, for Natalie, for Joe, Blair, and Tootie, in their mind, how quickly did Mrs. Garrett murder, dismember, and then break down Mr. Bigley's entire body and turn it into sausage? How quickly did they think that happens?
I'd say about 2 hours is all you need. Turn a man into some sausage.
Okay.
Anyway, so we're back at Edna's now. Mrs. Garrett's in trouble. She's got an order from a supermarket for all the bratwurst she can make. What is with this town and bratwurst?
This is the true mystery.
Yes, I agree. She's also covered in blood and holding a cleaver, which I appreciated. Nat frets that she's going to need more meat. Mrs. Garrett actually confirms this.
Yes.
But luckily, that's when 2 little trick-or-treaters entered the store dressed like Hansel and Gretel.
Mm-hmm.
Mrs. Garrett threatens to fatten them up and put them in the oven. Which disturbs Joe, who's like really signaling to these kids who cannot see her, even though Mrs. Garrett is facing her. See nothing. Mrs. Garrett, full view.
Yeah, so basically it's the beautiful direction of Azad Kalata, which is basically Joe going like this, just go out the door to like the children, and it's so broad and obvious and crappy that these 2 little kids are just standing there, and Mrs. Garrett just keeps saying how good enough they look to eat.
Yes, Blair offers them a box of pasta so that they're not killed and eaten.
Yeah.
But they smell the tantalizing aroma of human flesh with salt, white, black pepper, mace, ginger, marjoram, mustard powder, cardamom, coriander, milk powder, and caraway seeds. Yeah. That is how you make human bratwurst. Miss Garrett does, and you know what little kid doesn't smell bratwurst cooking and just float right to the oven?
True.
Mrs. Garrett says she has something cooking in the oven. Hansel and Gretel beg for a little peek in the oven and a little bite of it as well. These kids are weird as fuck.
Yeah, they are weird.
Let's talk about them.
Yeah, they're cute though. That little boy is. And do I recognize him?
No, you might you won't recognize her either, but she's got an interesting life. Hansel, is played by Sean DeVerich, who got his start on a 1981 after-school special called "Please Don't Hit Me, Mom."
Wow.
And Mom was Patty Duke.
Oh, wow.
Yes, Patty Duke played an abusive person in so many things in the 70s and 80s. It was like her bread and butter. But it also starred Sean Astin.
Well, also the great thing about that is that it's like, is that you kind of want to think of Patty Duke being like speaking to her manager, her agent, being like, "Do I get to hit a kid in this? Otherwise, no." I
need to hit a children. I need to hit a children. So Please Don't Hit Me, Mom stars Patty Duke, Sean Astin, Sean DeVerich, of course, and Nancy McKeon.
Whoa.
So you think she just like really bonded with this little boy and was like, let's get him to be Hansel?
Yeah.
After this, he did a TV movie called Sins of the Past, and then a TV remake of Mr. Mom starring Barry Van Dyke.
Whoa.
I'm going to find that and watch it.
Of course you are.
Barry Van Dyke is regular on Diagnosis Murder, which obviously he was only on because his dad was the star of it. And I found their father-son relationship fascinating, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. So it would be nice to see some younger BVD. Anyway, Sean DeVerich, SDV, I ended up on 26 episodes of the record label sitcom Throb, which I actually own bootleg copies of. I loved Throb. It was like a hip 80s record label. It starred Diana Canova and also a very young Jane Leeves as a punk rock girl named Blue. So into it. He did 2 Wonder Years episodes, and I assume he got hot because his last role was on the TV pilot Where's Rodney, where he played somebody named Moose. And in my estimation, nobody has ever played a moose without being hot. To me. My type is people named Moose, Slab, Chunk, Beef, whatever you're going to call them, that's my guy.
This is my boyfriend, Beef.
I'm jealous of my body, just became jealous of you just for saying that phrase. Yes, we should talk just briefly about Where's Rodney. Are you familiar with Where's Rodney? The internet discovered it. It was an unaired TV pilot that actually leaked a couple of years ago, and everybody was like, this can't be real. This can't be real. But it's real. It's basically a boy, also named Rodney, conjures up his idol, Rodney Dangerfield, whenever he's in a jam or has a life problem. And then, like, an imaginary Rodney Dangerfield comes and tells him what to do.
Yes.
It also stars Breckin Meyer and Soleil Moon Frye.
Yes, I do recall this.
Okay. It's truly terrible.
Wait.
Speaking of Soleil Moon Frye, unless you had something to say.
I just have something to say about Rodney Dangerfield.
Please.
I do feel as though in the late 80s, early 90s, Rodney Dangerfield did a series of films that mostly had him giving advice to children. I
know about Ladybugs. I'm sure there are more after Ladybugs, because Ladybugs was such a hit.
Yeah, but that was such a, what child would go to Rodney Dangerfield for advice?
Rodney, the star of Where's Rodney?
Okay.
Possibly Sean DeVerich. So more interesting than Hansel is Gretel. No offense to Sean DeVerich, but Gretel was played by Stephanie Riddell. And this is her first gig. She'll do a Punky Brewster, which is the speaking of Soleil Moon Frye. My Two Dads, Golden Girls, Knots Landing, Cutters, Blossom, Joe's Life, Married with Children. And she'll eventually host a 1999 lip sync competition show called Great Pretenders, which actually lasted 4 years. But what she's really known for is her music career, as she is 1/3 of the girl group from the 90s Wild Orchid. don't know if you're familiar with them.
Yeah.
That's where the world got Miss Fergalicious herself, Fergie, the Mrs. Josh Duhamel, the former Mrs. Josh Duhamel.
Josh Duhamel.
I love that you keep up with that because I didn't even know they were together when I was doing my notes. Yeah, she's been nominated for several awards. She actually recently contributed songs and voices to the Bratz movie, as well as songs for the Christina Aguilera burlesque movie.
Ooh.
And she was the spokesmodel for Guess and Bongo. So this girl led an interesting life, starting here as Gretel. This was her beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so that's Hansel and Gretel. Hope you enjoyed that. Mrs. Garrett is about to lead the children to their untimely death when Joe, who's now fully drunk the Kool-Aid, shoves them out of the store and tells them to run for their lives.
Yes.
Mrs. Garrett yells at Joe, like, this is supposed to be these kids' night.
Is it?
I mean, yeah, Halloween is for kids.
Yeah, for sure. But it's like, but Mrs. Garrett acts so outraged. She's like,
yes, she did.
Whoa! This is night for them. And it's like, okay, all right. It's just candy.
And then she goes, but it's too late now. Very sinisterly. As she locks the door and turns off all the lights.
All the lights.
But then she actually tells two of the girls to stay so they can continue turning off more lights. But we'll get to that in a second. Tootie's so freaked out. Tells the girls it's time to make the bratwurst. So I don't know where they found the extra meat during this scene now. But
again, also, I thought the bratwurst had been made. And
she made 25 pounds, but then the supermarket was like, we need all you can. And Natalie was like, oh, you're going to need more meat. And then we thought she was going to use
the
kids for the meat, but maybe she's going to use Blair and Joe. No, they're staying outside. Tootie and Natalie. Yes. And she leaves the girls to finish closing the store. Tells them to turn off more lights while she goes and sharpens more knives.
Yeah. The other funny thing is that Mrs.
How did they dull already?
I don't know. All of the sausage making, presumably. But the weird thing is that which I just remembered now, is that most of the time the girls are almost static. Like they just stay in Edna's Edibles. They just stay in that room or in their bedroom. Mrs. Garrett comes running in and out. She's constantly scream jogging throughout this scene and the rest of the episode. She's just like entering and exiting. And it's like, that's the only direction that, like, the only, like, actually dynamic thing that happens in this entire episode.
I disagree. I thought the whole thing was very dynamic. But Nancy McKeon, stumbles over her words as she tries to say, there's one of her and for them. 4 of us and 1 of her. She couldn't get it out. But then Tootie pulls some stats out of her ass that a woman possessed has the strength of 10 women. What? Is this in your book? How does she get this number?
How does she know that? What is she, an expert in the occult now?
Yeah, as of this episode and only this episode, yes. Joe tells Blair she's going to die first because she's the whimperer, essentially creating the scream genre.
That's true.
I don't know if I've seen, like, self-aware. I mean, they certainly didn't go, Tootie, you're going to die first because the black one always dies first, which I think might have been more accurate at the time, but
that's
the
true.
whimperer.
The whimperer. But the thing is that Blair is the blonde one, and Blair might be the final girl, so she wouldn't die.
I think Joe is anticipating that she's going to be the final girl just because she's the star of her movie.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's true. So Joe says they have to stick together. So, of course, Mrs. Garrett comes in and asks to separate them.
Yeah, so she scream jogs back in.
Yeah, she wants Natalie and Tootie only. And then Blair very weirdly announces, no, we made a pact to stick together. And Mrs. Garrett's not even like, what?
Like, what are you talking about? Why?
Why would you need a pact? Dude, You all live in the same room above my kitchen. You're sticking together.
You're together all the time.
Also, especially this episode.
Yeah.
Mrs. Garrett just whines that she can only use 2 of them at a time for some reason.
I don't understand. What's going on here?
I sausage making. I mean, how often do you make sausage? You need 3 people precisely. Any more, you don't have sausage anymore. You got like a souffle.
You got a quiche.
Yes. She asks Joe and Blair to stay and clean up the shop and turn off more lights. They're more than happy to watch the toots turn into sausage. They're like, great, that's fine.
Yeah, bye.
When their back's against the wall, don't count on them. Anyway, Natalie tries to back out. She's got a really fake cough that she's worried about.
Yeah.
It's funny, but it's also not right if she's trying to save her life.
Yeah, she goes, I've been feeling kind of sick lately.
But you missed the best part, is that she goes, like, she throws back like a really creepy grin at Mrs. Garrett, like, did it work? Yeah, Tootie is being protected by Joe and Blair's brooms, which I also thought was some good choreography. Says she has to study for finals in October.
Mrs. Garrett's like, what the hell's going on here? Finals?
Yeah, they give them early now, so they don't seem so final. Why not just say a big fucking test?
Because Jerry Mayer thought that was a joke?
He sure did. Anyway, Mrs. Garrett knows goofing off when she sees it, so she screams, get in there, which forces all the girls to circle Mrs. Garrett with baguettes and brooms.
Mm-hmm.
Which is where we get our opening scene from the credits.
Finally.
Our closing scene of the credits.
Finally.
Yes. Were you excited?
I was very excited. Actually, it was also very, I was actually lightly impressed by the choreography of this scene with the brooms and the baguettes, because that was they were doing a lot of, acrobatics with them. And it was good. Because then they surrounded Mrs. Garrett, and it was actually, remarkable that they could actually perform something like that in front of a live studio audience.
They're good. Remarkable. Anyway, Tootie gets the worst line of the episode.
Yes.
You're not turning this brat into a bratwurst.
Yeah.
I hide my head in my taco meat in shame. Joe tries to play hostage negotiator, asking her to turn over the knife so they can talk about it. Mrs. Garrett whips around, and Nat Worm's careful, she's clever. But Mrs. Garrett does. She hands over the knife, and Blair asks her what she's done to Mr. Bigley. I've noticed that all the old people on the show, namely Mr. Bigley and Mrs. Garrett, pronounce it Bigley, whereas all the youngins say Bigley.
Ah, I didn't notice that.
That's all I have for that, but I did notice it. Natoots confronts Mrs. Garrett with their evidence, and then Blair nearly says the name of this podcast, actually, when she's like, facts are facts.
Yeah.
I was like, so close.
Well, so basically, they say that they found his jacket, Mr. Bigley's jacket, in the trash, which again, circumstantial evidence. We're not sure that he's disappeared or dead or whatever, But Blair says, once Mr. Bigley disappeared, your bratwurst runneth over. That's a dick joke.
I laughed at
that. I wrote, ew.
Mrs. Garrett's outraged and asks if the girls are crazy, but as Joe points out, they asked Mrs. Garrett that first.
Mm-hmm.
And Tootie tries to play diplomat. It's not Mrs. Garrett's fault. The possessee is always the last to know.
Yeah. And
Blair, she knows everything about this now.
Yeah, but Blair says that she can arrange a top drawer exorcism because she knows people like some higher ups at St. Patrick's Cathedral.
How good would that episode be?
That's the Halloween episode I want. And Mrs. Garrett being exorcised? Absolutely.
And all the rest of the girls in like costumes?
Yes. A traditional Halloween episode. Anyway, so then in comes Chaos Agent Mr. Bigley.
Yes. Mrs. Garrett sobs to him. She's being accused of being a murderer. Mm-hmm. And he's sorry to ruin everything, Natalie, but he needs his jacket, Natalie.
Yeah. And everyone's like, how does he know your name, Natalie?
It sounds like Joe said that, not everyone.
Joe did say that. But also, Mr. Bigley enters from the living room.
So it's like they just like kept the door just open, unlocked. Mr. Bigley feels comfortable just walking through their house to get, like, he knows the lineage of their house so well to know, like, if I go through the front door and then go through this door in the living room, I'm going to get to the store. Just knock on the freaking store door.
Exactly.
Anyway, he needs his jacket, so that's why he's there. And Mrs. Garrett seems pissed. She demands answers.
Yeah.
And Natalie says this is a case of creativity unleashed. Okay.
I mean, that's the most obnoxious way to describe what she did.
That is true. But it is a way.
Which is gaslight her friends, the people who are her best friends, and her mentor. And make her friends think that the woman that they live with is a murderous psycho who's also turning Joe into a cannibal.
Yes. So Nat admits she made the Halloween massacre up. Everyone's pissed off except for Mr. Bigley, who's in unusually good spirits considering that he just destroyed an all-time prank. And Mr. Bigley doesn't even exist for no reason at all. This plan had him changing his name from Mr. Lazaroni.
Yeah.
He is the caretaker at the cemetery, and despite playing an old crank, he's really a mellow guy with an undying love for the theater, which is where Ian Wolfe got his start. So, you know.
He's really a very mellow guy. He takes his jacket and says "ciao," throws it over his shoulder, and walks out.
Drops a peace sign.
Living room.
Yes, he goes to the living room again.
What is that?
It's so weird. It's like the door's right there. We'll lock up behind you. We're in here.
But this is the most scary aspect, that he just enters and leaves their house. At what time of night is this? Midnight?
No, those little kids were just there. So I think it's like 8 o'clock closing time.
Well, in any case, if a strange old man started wandering in and out of my house through my living room at 8 o'clock at night, I would be scared as, freaked out, especially if it was on Halloween.
If he's that old, I feel like I could take him. I'm not that worried.
Fair enough.
And he's so cute. I would just be like, want some bratwurst? Anyway, these people just don't lock their doors. And we learn the motivation for all of this is that it's part of Natalie's horror movie. Yeah. Wrong with my mouth. Natalie's horror movie student film project. Bratwurst's gone bad, I guess. Mm-hmm. Natalie left all the clues to convince the girls that Mrs. Garrett was a murderess. Mm-hmm. I do question how she got the 25 pounds of meat during the Great Butcher Strike of '83, but I'm okay with it. The rest of the girls deny being fooled, but Natalie gives no fucks. She got great footage. Yep. Cue Roy, who has been hiding in a barrel this whole fucking time with a camcorder, which is disturbing and probably why we don't see Roy much more after this. Yeah, because it's, here at this point, he probably is always going to be in that fucking barrel, staring at the girls. Dressed like a bunch of pickles. And the girls confront Natalie, pretty pissed off, no longer feigning that they didn't believe. It was just that went out the window. And Blair's worried about worry lines. Yeah. I mean, the thing is about this is that I actually considered that, Natalie is basically, this is like proto Blair Witch Project. Oh. Found footage, Natalie Witch Project. Exactly. Love it. Now I got the AKA. Yeah. And then Mrs. Garrett says that Natalie was partially right because there will be a murder in the house tonight. And she goes to strangle Natalie as Roy squats and films his first snuff porn, which he will enjoy later on. Yep. And that is the Halloween show. We got cannibalism, dick jokes, snuff porn, perverts hiding in barrels, million-year-old men with mysterious name changes. We got it all.
Yeah, you mean
sausage.
You mean one of the worst Halloween episodes I've ever seen of television.
That is rude and wrong. And I guarantee you that our lovelies love this episode because this is one of the highest rated IMDb episodes, and it's just great.
They might love it, but it certainly is the worst Halloween episode I've ever seen. This didn't do all of it. As I said, it broke all the cardinal rules. None of the main characters were in costume. Almost no one was in costume.
You can't make an omelet without breaking some rules.
Actually, you can.
Fair enough. Well, I'm sorry that you didn't enjoy it as much as I did, but you're not going to be happy next week.
Great.
It's a Natalie episode, and it's one of those episodes where one of the girls is a real asshole, and that girl is Natalie.
Yep.
And we'll have some returning players. Bet you didn't think you were going to see Mr. Parker again.
Oh, God.
But yeah. And also, we're going to see Bootsy, and we will also see Guy. Remember Guy with his missing anatomy?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he'll be back.
Is he going to be in a towel this whole time?
Fingers crossed. Maybe he'll be dressed like a taco.
Maybe.
Anyway, do you have any final thoughts for today's wonderful Halloween episode that you didn't like?
Stay safe out there, trick-or-treaters.
Yes. Nothing with razor blades. Check all of your snacks for razor blades.
And better be safe than sorry. Don't eat any bratwurst until 2022 because they might be made out of old men.
No bratwurst for old men? No, it doesn't work. No bratwurst of old men.
There we go.
Anyway, all right. Well, until next time, stay lovely, guys. Stay spoopy, and we will see you next time.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.